8 members of the Rhoden family shot and killed execution style inside their home. The most complex murder investigation ever by the Ohio Attorney General's office. And tonight, more than 2 years later, we are finally getting answers. Attorney General Mike DeWine says these 4 people are responsible for killing the 8 family members. And these 2 others, both grandmothers, are accused of trying to cover up the crime. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us for 9 on your side at 11. I'm Craig McKee.
And I'm Tanya O'Rourke, anchoring our coverage live from Pike County tonight. We have multiple crews covering every angle of this story for you. First, though, let's talk about the arrests. 4 members of the Wagner family face numerous charges. That includes aggravated murder, the possibility of the death penalty for each there. They are George Billy Wagner III, his wife Angela Wagner, his son George Wagner IV, and his other son Edward Jake Wagner. All 4 are in custody tonight. Now, investigators say Jake had a child with one of the victims, Hannah. It appears that likely did play a role in these murders. Now, these 2 women are family members of the Wagner family. They are Rita Newcomb and Frederica Wagner. They are charged with obstruction of justice. Newcomb is also accused of forgery. And tonight, we know one of the family members was arrested in Lexington, Kentucky. And this is what it looked like as 47-year-old Billy Wagner was taken into custody on Lexington's north side. From this video, it does appear that Wagner cooperated once he was caught just outside an equine hospital. Attorney General Mike DeWine believes the Wagner family planned this gruesome attack for months and then tried to conceal the evidence. Now, I spoke with him about this long, arduous, difficult process to build this case and his determination to see it all the way through to the end.
I also felt it was going to take a while. That it just takes a while to put these cases together. I mean, it literally is like a 1,000-piece puzzle. And if you can imagine that puzzle, you take one piece of evidence and you put it down, and at some point you start getting a picture. You start seeing the outlines of a picture and a face. That's what happened in this case.
Now, I want to bring in our investigative reporter for the I-Team, Hillary Lake, who's been following this case for quite some time. And you were here in this very room for that news conference today, and you heard them talk about this incredible process.
That's right, Tanya. And think about it. You have 8 members of one family who have been murdered in cold blood. Now you have 3 generations of another family who were arrested for plotting and carrying out those murders in some cases and helping to cover them up in other cases. From the start, Attorney General Mike DeWine and Pike County Sheriff Charles Rhoden told me that they were going to do whatever it took to solve this case the right way. They didn't care how long it took, and tonight we know that persistence paid off.
Billy and Angela Wagner and their sons George and Jake face the most serious charges the state can file against anyone: aggravated murder with the possibility of the death penalty.
We believe that the Wagners conspired together to develop an elaborate plan to kill the 8 victims under the cover of darkness and then carefully cover up their tracks. We believe the evidence will show that the suspects spent months planning the crimes.
The Wagners also face other charges, including conspiracy, aggravated burglary, and tampering with evidence. Attorney General Mike DeWine says the Wagners forged child custody documents, and those documents left a trail for investigators. Jake Wagner and victim Hannah Rhoden share a child who was not with Hannah when Hannah was killed in 2016. DeWine says mostly, though, it came down to dogged police work to solve the state's biggest, most complicated murder case.
This investigation began the day of the murders, and with investigators discovering the last piece of significant physical evidence on October 30th of this year. The examination of that evidence was completed a few days later on November 7th.
Months of work that's taken its toll on the victims' families and teams of investigators. But perhaps the investigator affected most over the past 2.5 years, Pike County Sheriff Charles Rhoden.
Surely it's a relief. It is. It's a lot of weight taken off my shoulders. It's been a long time coming. I'm not the most patient person. But, we had to just stay focused on the investigation. We had to stay focused on that we was working for 8 victims that no longer had a voice.
And since the Wagner family members are all facing the death penalty, they will face trial separately. It's possible their attorneys will file for a change of venue, but first they have to find attorneys that can take those death penalty cases. And the Pike County prosecutor told me that it could take years to try all 4 of these cases. So with these arrests, none of this is over yet. There's still a lot more ahead.
Still a long process. Yeah. Okay, Hillary Lake, thanks so much. By the way, Attorney General Mike DeWine told us that it was a piece of evidence that they gathered on October 30th that was really the final straw for them, that final piece of key evidence that they needed to be able to arrest the Wagners. But for months and months now, we had been hearing, maybe even years, that they would talk about the Wagners to us off the record and stop just short of calling them people of interest. 9 on your side's Kristen Swilley joins us now from the newsroom to tell us more about this family, the Wagner family. Kristen?
Yeah, well, we know authorities have had their eyes on the Wagners for more than a year, and just weeks ago, they secured the final piece of evidence they needed to indict them.
We are getting closer. We will find you.
In May of 2017, 9 on Your Side was there as law enforcement first searched trailers and other properties belonging to the family. Jake Wagner and one of the victims, Hannah Rhoden, were in a custody battle over their daughter. There were also questions over whether Wagner was the father of their days-old infant. Wagner is charged with unlawful sexual conduct with a minor. He was 20. She was 15. By June of 2017, police were zeroing in on the Wagners. They had moved to Alaska. According to public records, the family lived in Kenai, about 3 hours southwest of Anchorage. It's not clear what they did for work during their time there or why they chose to move back to Ohio in May. There is no record of any big trouble there, but police were picking up on clues.
They left a trail, the parts to build a silencer, the forged documents, the cameras, cell phones. All that they tampered with. And the lies. All the lies they told us.
Authorities won't say what was the final piece of evidence that led to their arrest. Now, George Wagner IV is in the Ross County Jail in Kentucky. Attorney General Mike DeWine says there's no reason to think anyone else is involved in the murders.